Oh,
Chair Grossman, you're muted.
I know, I'm talking to my wife.
Oh,
Sorry, my apologies.
we want to hear that conversation. No, I'm kidding.
Not that interesting. Waiting to see if we might get a complete quorum here.
Stacy Coburn will be absent.
She's absent. Yeah, that's right. I did talk to her.
We do have a quorum though. There are 5 of you available.
That's right, yeah. All right, well, let's call this meeting of the Columbia Gateway Urban Renewal Agency Board to order. Roll call, please. Paula.
Diana Bailey is absent. Stacy Coburn is absent. Tracy Duchek.
Here.
John Frederick.
Here.
Gary Grossman.
Present.
Darcy Long Curtis.
present.
Tim McLaughlin is absent. Dan Richardson
Present.
and Kathy Schwartz.
Present. Am I here? Where am I? Got it.
Okay, if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge, here we go. Takes a little bit getting up. I was prepared. I knew we had to do it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, next up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections or a motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded to approve the agenda as submitted. All those in favor, raise your hand. That passes. Next up, approval of the minutes of our May 18th, 2021 meeting. Again, that's been mailed to you, so any additions or corrections that may need to be made, or I'll accept a motion to approve as submitted.
I'll move to approve the minutes as presented.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2021 meeting. All those in favor, raise your hand. Thumbs up. Thank you. That passes. Next up would be our time for public comment. I see no members of the public. If there is one, wave your hand, speak as necessary. I don't see any public comment. So we'll move on to staff comments and project updates. So for that, we'll turn it over to Alice. But before we go, let me welcome Kathy Schwartz to the board. Kathy has served in the past and will be a great addition to the board in place of Commissioner Kramer. So glad to have you, Commissioner Schwartz.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. You know, some people you just can't get rid of, right? I mean,
Well, you were one of the first people I knew when I came to the Dalles, and then you left, and then you came back, but we're glad you're here. So,
all right. Thank you. I really look forward to being able to serve on this board again. I'm very committed and passionate about urban renewal.
I know you are. So glad to have you, Kathy. So back to you, Alice, for project updates and staff comments.
Chair Grossman and members of the board, I had a nice opportunity to sit out in the park with Commissioner Schwartz, Board Member Schwartz, in a very windy condition. And little did she know, we sat on a bench and somebody had spread their milkshake, their chocolate milkshake on that bench, and I sat on it. So I was sticky the rest of the day, but what do you do? So anyway, that's what happens. But we had a really great conversation and I welcome her to our board. And I mostly appreciate that she has some history and can fill in some gaps maybe that I don't, history that I don't have yet in my time. So I wanted to give, and first of all, I want to say absence makes the heart grow fonder, maybe. I've missed all of you and missed a chance to meet with you this summer. I know I did talk to Chair Grossman earlier in June, and he said, if we can avoid just having meetings for project updates, only come to us if you have action items. Tonight we have an we have an executive session that is timely. We want to talk to you about that, but I do want to have a chance to give some project updates, mostly for the sake of the public that may or may not be watching tonight. But I did send out an email update about First Street project, Tony's project, and the recreation building. And I would just want to run through those really quickly with you and give any updates that we have on all those items. On the First Street project, that one is moving right along. I've been pleased. We're right in the throes of learning whether our environmental reviews with ODOT we can go through the short process versus the longer process. So we have a little bit of evaluation to do, and we have a contract for me to sign in the next week or so that will allow us to do some under sidewalk work that we hope will allow us to move quickly and get this thing keep it on schedule to be under construction in 2023. So more to come on that. I will keep you updated as things move along, but I'm really pleased with the progress we're making. I know it's slow and I'm sorry for that, but I can assure you things are moving. Let's see, recreation building. I know a lot of people have had questions about what's happening in there. There is work going on inside the building and a lot of it. I've been visiting the site once or twice a week and talking regularly to Mr. Carpenter, who's got the work underway. And I think in either late this month or early part of next month, we'll either be able to remove or move the plywood on the front. He needed to get some forms poured in order for the exterior wall to be placed. So more to come with that one, but I am pleased and everything's taking shape inside. So does anyone have questions? I wanted to make sure before I put I intend to place some vinyl signs on the outside of the plywood so that people can see a coming soon. I wanted to make sure he was on schedule before I say coming soon. So I think I'll put something up within the next month that has our logo and has the Last Stop, the developers logo as well, just so people know that that's coming. And I want to show an image that gives all of the elevations, all the storefront elevations, so people can get an idea as to what they can expect the last part of this year or early next year. Board Member Long Curtis.
Thank you, Director Cannon. I actually had a question about maybe the possibility of asking them to do a couple really little things that I think would make a big impact. When I've walked by, I've noticed that some of the paper is peeling down, and so it just doesn't look very good. And plus, it's been up for a long time. And I think there are a couple other things like that could really make a difference, because we have a lot of people from the ships walking by there, and even I walking by there, even though I know what's going on, it just doesn't look that great. And I think a lot of people don't really follow and know what's going on.
So just spruce it up to the extent that he can on the
Yeah,
outside.
just really simple things like either tape that paper back up or maybe put a fresh piece of paper on it. I mean, there's just a couple things like that he probably doesn't. I mean, why would people working there pay attention to that? But as for me, the aesthetic is important when I'm walking by. You know, they're probably very focused on getting it done and what that looks like. But I think in
Okay.
the meantime, we could do something.
Okay, happy to do that. Happy to give that comment and move forward with that. So any other questions about that project? I know that's been the number one question that I've heard from different folks in the community. I fully expect that I would guess that it'll either be done in late this calendar year, meaning November or December, or first part of next year. I don't know if he's going to meet the November milestone, but we have a provision in our agreement that gives me the authority to extend the agreement to January. Anything past that, I have to bring it forward. We have to bring it forward back to you. So did I get that right, Jonathan? I think that's right. So
That sounds correct.
okay. On the Tony's Building project, I'm really pleased and I appreciate the support of Chair Grossman and Board Member Frederick and Todd Carpenter, who showed up at the Historic Landmarks Commission to just offer some words of support and some background. But the building demolition was approved unanimously by the the Historic Landmarks Commission in the latter part of July. I think it was July 28th. So I was pleased. I thought the questions were good, and I especially appreciated the board chair's ability to keep the commission's review within scope and not allow the conversation to veer off into other topics. So I appreciate that a lot. So next steps, we'll keep you posted next month as to where we are with this project, but I was really pleased that was an important milestone this summer. Let me see in my written, what else I mentioned. Yeah, I did mention that there is a need for some additional assessment. We do need to get an archaeological assessment for the property, for the underbuilding portion. And so that's a requirement I wasn't initially aware of until it did start going through the HLC process. But this is a state law and it's compliant. It's a state permit that we'll have to receive, and we will need to hire an archaeological professional to help us with that assessment. So I'll have more information for you in the next couple of months, but particularly next month in the public meeting, I'll be able to talk more about that. Those are the issues. What I know, Board Member Richardson had, where is he? Is he on the, oh, there he is. Couldn't see you there in the corner. He has asked about the strategic planning. I had promised to come back to this group in the fall and take the goals for this year, but fold them into, let's create some goals and some, just a path forward for the next 9 years, basically, of the life of the agency, to take the project list that we have and the amount of money that we have left and start to make some priorities on what we want to accomplish in the remaining years. So that's what I intend to do at the September and October meetings. If it takes 2 sessions, we'll do it over 2 sessions. I don't think this will be a complicated conversation because we have a lot of good background work, and the urban renewal plan is pretty tangible. It tells us what projects, gives us a good guide. So, and then the other project that I want to get going on this fall would be dusting off our incentive programs, just to make sure that those are updated, particularly looking at incentives to get more housing units built in the downtown. I'm hearing more interest from property owners who might want to add units on the second level of their buildings. So that's exciting. I want to make sure that we're offering enough incentives to bring that to fruit here in the urban renewal area. Board Member Lon Curtis.
Sorry, I'm actually not sure if this is the appropriate time, but I've actually been getting a lot of contact from people who are currently living downtown and reminding me of something that I had forgotten, which is that they have to move their cars during the day because of the parking. And the couple of people were telling me that they felt like it was getting to be a problem for them to figure out where to park. And so they wouldn't have to keep moving their vehicles around. So I think, it's something to consider. We've talked about a parking garage before and talked about how it only gets more expensive, and think there was kind of a consensus that it was too expensive, but thinking about adding more housing downtown and people needing a place that they're allowed to just park and be, I think it's at least worth revisiting that.
I agree. I think I've heard this too, is that there are a couple of blocks that where existing housing units are that get really crowded during the day. And it's really about the policy. We have a policy in place that prevents or prohibits residential parking for those residents. And one might ask or wonder if that's fair. And I will admit I'm a downtown resident myself, and I don't encounter that kind of parking demand in the block that I live in. But I will say that it does seem that we might want to look at that policy and see if we can make provision for the folks that rent and actually are renting space during the day, that they can do that. That will be an action required by council, not by this board. So.
And we should also look at, I mean, that's one way is to change the policy, but another way is just to have more designated space where they are allowed to park. And, you know, we only have a limited amount of space downtown that we're kind of starting to build on and do things. And I just think even if we're not building today, we should look with an eye toward the future, because we're not going to be able to expand downtown. Like once it's there, it's there. And so anyway, I just want to have that discussion. And I guess my point was to bring in people who live downtown, because that had kind of slipped off my radar that was an issue, even though I technically knew that was the rule. I just wasn't thinking about it from their perspective.
Jonathan, did you want to say something?
Oh, thank you, Alice. Yeah, well, I just wanted to indicate that it's not so much a policy. It's more a general ordinance. So any sort of issues that concern downtown street parking connected with, you know, residents living down here, that was a general ordinance passed some years ago by the city council. And so I agree it may be worth revisiting, but more than likely to touch on that would need to go to the city council, and sort of is outside the scope of this agency board. But to the extent that we can discuss potential developments or entering into, you know, DDAs with developers that are interested in developing a parking garage or something like that, that would, you know, eventually send agency land into private ownership to get it on the tax roll, you know, the spirit of this agency, then that's something that we could bring back to this agency. But I just wanted to indicate that since it's not a policy of the agency to restrict parking, it's a general ordinance of the city. That's something that might be best reserved for the city council of the city.
Having said that, I think this group could certainly weigh in and offer up a letter or something in support of any change to those ordinances at some point. So that concludes my project update for this evening, unless anyone has other questions. We will be back next month, and if I do expect we'll launch into our strategic planning for the next bit of time and try to scope out what we want to accomplish with the remaining dollars.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Next up on the agenda would be board member comments or questions. Do we have any comments or questions from the board this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to executive session. We're going to recess to executive session.
Chair Grossman?
Yes.
I'm sorry for interrupting. It appears board member Kathy Schwartz had something to say.
Oh,
I'm sorry. You know, I hope I don't embarrass myself, but I don't believe I know Joshua Chandler. Have we met? And I don't know if he's a member of the public or on the board or what he represents. Sorry, I know everybody else, but.
I'll speak to that. Let me introduce our associate planner, Josh Chandler. He works on a lot of planning projects, but he is my right-hand person, helps me with urban renewal projects as well, in addition to many, many other things. So he attends a lot of these meetings, most of them, just so he can implement the things that are discussed here. So.
Okay, thank you. And Josh, we have met, haven't we?
Yeah, about short-term rentals.
Yeah, got it. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Yeah. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions from the board? If not, we will recess to executive session in accordance with ORS 1926602F to consider information on records that are exempt by law from public inspection. So we will reconvene on the next Zoom call.